Millionaire lets an elderly homeless woman stay in his luxury mansion, but when he came home without knocking, he couldn't believe what she was doing. The night was dark and rainy, typical of a grim winter where the city seemed swallowed by the sadness of the grey sky. Michael Pagani, a young millionaire of 29, drove his luxurious car through the wet streets, the rhythmic sound of raindrops against the windshield serving as a melancholic melody that reflected his state of mind. Although he possessed everything money could buy, Michael felt a deep emptiness, an overwhelming loneliness that neither his grand mansion nor his numerous possessions could fill. He had inherited a vast fortune after the tragic death of his parents in a plane crash. Since then, Michael lived alone, immersed in a mechanical routine of business meetings, lavish dinners, and sleepless nights. Nothing seemed to have a true purpose, and the absence of his family weighed like an anchor on his heart. As he was returning from yet another meaningless business dinner, Michael spotted a small, hunched figure in the pouring rain. An elderly woman, soaked and wearing worn-out clothes, was slowly walking along the sidewalk, clearly disoriented and vulnerable to the bad weather. As he got closer, Michael noticed that the woman was carrying a plastic bag with some belongings. She was homeless. Her face was marked by time and the harsh life on the streets, and her eyes reflected a deep sadness as if they carried the weight of years of suffering. Driven by an unexpected impulse of compassion, Michael stopped the car next to her and rolled down the window. "Are you all right, ma'am?" he asked, his voice sounding almost strange to himself for being filled with genuine concern. The woman looked at him with suspicion, hesitating for a moment before shaking her head no. Michael insisted, offering her a ride and a dry place to warm up. At first, the woman refused, wary of a stranger's intentions, but exhaustion and the cold made her reconsider. Emily, as she introduced herself after some insistence, hesitated but finally gave in, pressured by the relentless rain soaking her clothes to the bone and the prospect of a rare act of kindness amid the indifference she usually faced on the streets. During the drive to the mansion, silence filled the car. Michael tried to understand why he felt the need to help this woman. Perhaps unconsciously, he was trying to fill the hole left by his parents' absence, seeking some kind of redemption or purpose that justified his existence. Upon reaching the mansion, Michael led Emily inside, where the warmth and comfort of the place sharply contrasted with the cold and desolation outside. Emily, still a bit shy, accepted a hot drink and began to relax. Gradually, she shared fragments of her story, a life full of dreams that turned into nightmares, culminating in an abusive relationship that forced her to flee and eventually live on the streets. Emily recounted that after leaving everything behind, she had gotten lost in a strange city without family or friends and ended up finding refuge on sidewalks and plazas where she fought daily to survive. Michael listened attentively, feeling an unexpected connection to Emily's pain. Her story, although so different from his, echoed a familiarity in suffering and loss. Seeing Emily's fragility, something broke inside him. Michael decided that she would stay in the mansion's guest room, at least until he thought of something more definitive. For the first time in a long time, he felt that perhaps, just perhaps, he was on the path to finding a purpose. The days following Emily's arrival were marked by a subtle but significant change in Michael's routine. The presence of the lady brought a new energy to the mansion, which previously seemed only like a museum full of painful memories and devoid of life. Michael, who always avoided spending time at home, began to find comfort in Emily's company. She was not just a guest. She was gradually becoming a maternal figure, filling a space he didn't even know existed. Michael found himself increasingly interested in the small conversations they had, the advice Emily offered, and even the way she appreciated simple moments like having tea on the porch or admiring the mansion's garden. She reminded him of his mother, not by appearance or voice, but by the kindness in her gestures and the wisdom in her eyes. Emily, in turn, seemed to feel more at ease in the mansion, a safe haven where she could finally rest from years of suffering. On a rainy afternoon similar to the one when they met, Michael returned early from a cancelled meeting, and upon entering the house, he heard a soft melody coming from the hallway. He followed the sound to the guest room and stopped at the door, stunned by what he saw. Emily was sitting by the window, her gaze lost in the rain outside, singing softly a song Michael didn't recognize but that touched him deeply. Emily's voice was surprisingly tuned, laden with emotion and technique that clearly came from someone with a lot of experience. Michael stood still, not wanting to interrupt that intimate moment but unable to hide his surprise. When Emily noticed his presence, she abruptly stopped singing, embarrassed for having been overheard. "Sorry, I didn't know you were home," she said, trying to hide her embarrassment. Michael, still stunned, slowly approached, his eyes shining with admiration. "Emily, your voice, it's incredible. I've never heard anything like it. Why didn't you ever tell me you sang like that?" he asked, genuinely impressed. Emily smiled sadly, as if the compliment brought up long-buried memories. "Oh, Michael, that was in another life. A long time ago I was a singer, a famous singer actually, in the 70s. I traveled the whole country, sang for big audiences, but it all ended. It ended as quickly as it started." She hesitated for a moment, as if reliving every detail of her story as she told it. Michael, sensing her reluctance, sat next to her, encouraging her with a look that said, "I'm here to listen." After a long sigh, Emily continued, "I was married to Andrew, my manager. At first, he seemed like the perfect partner. He helped me build my career, supported me at every step. But over time, I realized Andrew was more interested in my money than my talent. He started siphoning off what I earned to support his drinking habit. I didn't notice. I was blinded by trust. By love, maybe. When I finally realized it was too late. I was broke and he left me with nothing. That's when I decided to run away, without direction, without perspective, just fleeing the pain." Michael listened intently, feeling a mix of indignation and sadness for everything Emily had been through. He couldn't imagine how someone so talented and kind could have been betrayed like that, especially by someone who should have cared for her. "Emily, you deserve so much more than that. No one should go through something like this. I want to help you find your shine again," Michael said with conviction, his voice filled with determination. "You still have this incredible talent, and the world should hear your voice again." Emily shook her head, uncertain. "It's been so long, Michael. I don't know if I still have the strength for this. And after everything that happened, I don't know if I'm ready to face the world again." "You don't have to do it alone," Michael replied, smiling. "I'll be with you every step of the way. Let's show the world that Emily is back, stronger than ever." In that moment, Michael not only decided to help Emily regain her former glory, but also began to envision a new mission for himself. Maybe by helping Emily rise again, he could also find the purpose he had been searching for. For Emily, the possibility of singing again was both terrifying and invigorating, a call that awakened something she thought she had lost forever. Michael was determined to help Emily reclaim the dignity and sparkle that had been stolen from her. From the moment he heard her powerful, emotion-filled voice, he knew he needed to do more than just offer a roof. He wanted to give back what Andrew had taken from her, not just the money, but also the confidence, self-esteem, and respect she deserved. Determined, Michael hired a private investigator to find Andrew. He wanted to understand who this man was that had turned Emily's life into a nightmare, and if possible, confront him. Michael knew that Emily's past was full of shadows, but he believed that shedding light on these forgotten parts of her life could be the first step toward her true redemption. While the investigator worked, Michael spent more time with Emily, listening to her talk about the glory days when her voice enchanted crowds. Emily told stories of the stages where she performed, the festivals, and the moments that marked her career. She spoke of the nights when people gave her standing ovations, the fans who waited for hours to see her, and the emotions she conveyed with each song. As the stories flowed, Michael saw a sparkle in Emily's eyes, a spark of who she had been before everything fell apart. "I used to love singing about love, the joys and sorrows of life," Emily said with a nostalgic smile. "I believed that through my voice I could touch people in a unique way. Maybe that's what I missed most when it all ended, the connection with people." Listening to these stories, Michael felt increasingly determined to restore that lost connection between Emily and her audience. He saw in her a genuine talent, a skill that neither time nor past mistakes could completely erase. And with each day, his desire to seek justice for Emily's wasted life grew. Days later, the investigator returned with information about Andrew. He had found the former manager living in a retirement home, far from the spotlights and glitz he once knew alongside Emily. Andrew was aged, his health debilitated by years of alcohol abuse and embittered by regret. The report described a man who seemed to carry the weight of his wrong choices and who, in rare moments of lucidity, spoke about the guilt he felt for everything he had done. Reading the report, Michael remained silent for a few minutes, absorbing every detail. He felt a mixture of anger and pity. Anger for what Andrew had done to Emily, and pity for what Andrew had become. He knew he needed to see him in person. He needed to understand what had led Andrew to destroy not just Emily's career, but also both of their lives. The next day, Michael decided to visit Andrew. The retirement home was a modest place with a well-kept garden, but exuded an aura of abandonment and loneliness. Upon entering, Michael was greeted by a nurse who led him to Andrew's room. The man was sitting in a wheelchair, looking out the window, seemingly lost in thought. His eyes were dull, reflecting a life filled with regrets. "Andrew?" Michael called out, trying not to show the indignation he felt. Andrew slowly turned, facing Michael with a vacant stare. "Who are you?" he asked in a hoarse, weak voice. "My name is Michael Pagani. I'm looking after someone you knew a long time ago, Emily." Hearing Emily's name, something changed in Andrew's expression. He blinked several times, as if trying to bring back buried memories. "Emily, my Emily," he whispered, his voice laden with pain. I did everything wrong with her." Michael approached, trying to stay calm. "Why, Andrew? Why did you do what you did? You had everything with her. Why destroy what was good?" Andrew lowered his head, the shame evident in every line of his aged face. "I don't know. I was blind, consumed by addiction, by greed. I thought I was in control, but I lost everything. I lost the best thing I ever had. I lost Emily. She was my world, and I destroyed it." Andrew's regret was palpable, but Michael wasn't there to judge him, at least not immediately. He wanted answers and perhaps a chance for redemption for everyone involved. "Andrew, Emily is alive. She survived despite everything, and I'm going to help her find what she lost," Michael said firmly. "But you need to understand that your actions have consequences. If you really regret it, maybe there's a way to start making amends for what you did." Andrew nodded, tears streaming down his face. "If I could go back, I would give anything to ask her forgiveness, to make peace with the past. I just want her to know that I never stopped loving her, even being the fool I was." Michael remained silent for a moment, watching Andrew struggle with his emotions. The man in front of him, now so frail and consumed by guilt, was a shadow of the manager who once controlled Emily's career with an iron fist. Andrew's remorse was evident, but Michael knew there was more behind the actions that had destroyed Emily's life. "I know you're sorry for what you did to Emily," Michael began, trying to keep his voice calm. "But I need to understand, why keep going for so long? How could someone who loved her do that?" Andrew sighed, closing his eyes as if trying to recall the past was a painful effort. "I started with good intentions, you know. I wanted Emily to be a star, wanted to give her the world. But when the money started coming in, everything changed. I changed. The power, the success. Suddenly it was all about me, not about us." He rubbed his trembling hands as if he could still feel the weight of the wrong decisions. "And the addiction. Alcohol became my escape. Every drink pushed me further away from reality, made me forget my failures and the pressure of keeping everything under control. The truth is, I was breaking, and I took Emily down with me." Michael listened closely, his feelings of anger mixing with reluctant understanding. Andrew wasn't just the villain he expected, he was a man lost in his own tragedy. "But it wasn't just Emily you lost, was it?" Michael gently pressed, sensing there was more to the story. He had noticed a framed photograph next to Andrew's bed, a young woman with a vibrant smile, resembling Emily in her best days. Andrew looked at the photo with tearful eyes. "Amanda," he whispered, his voice failing. "Our daughter. I lost her too. She had everything to be an artist like her mother, but my behavior, my mistakes, drove her away from us. Amanda stayed with me until she was 21, enduring the worst of me, but then she couldn't anymore." Andrew began to sob, the pain of the past finally unfolding into words. "She left right after turning 21. She said she couldn't watch me destroy myself any longer and needed a fresh start away from everything that reminded her of pain and failures. I watched her leave, knowing I had lost her forever." Michael felt a tightness in his chest hearing that. It wasn't just a story of a failed marriage, but of a family shattered by bad choices and unbearable addictions. "Have you ever tried to find her?" Michael asked, still processing everything. Andrew shook his head sadly. "I tried, but not really. I was so deep in my addiction and guilt that I never had the strength to really go after her. Amanda was my biggest loss, more than any money or success. She was the best part of me, and I destroyed that too." Michael looked at Andrew, seeing more than just a defeated man. He saw a small flicker of hope, a genuine desire to fix what could be fixed. Despite the years of distance and silence, maybe there was still a chance for redemption for Andrew, and for Emily too. "Andrew," Michael said softly, "Emily doesn't know you're here, but I want to help her find peace with her past, and I think you're a part of that. If I bring Emily to you, would you be willing to talk to her? To ask for the forgiveness you want?" Andrew looked up, his tired eyes showing a spark of determination. "I would do anything to fix this. Anything to at least once do the right thing for Emily. And if Amanda ever hears my story, I'd like her to know I never stopped loving her despite all my mistakes." Michael nodded, feeling this was the opportunity he had been searching for, not just for Emily, but for himself too. He knew this reunion wouldn't be easy, that the wounds were deep and words might fail, but he also knew it was the necessary step to move forward. With a renewed sense of purpose, Michael left the retirement home. He needed to prepare Emily for what was to come, knowing that the reunion could both bring relief and reopen wounds. However, he believed that the truth and the possibility of forgiveness could finally free them both from a past that continued to haunt them. Michael spent the following days trying to find the best way to prepare Emily for the reunion with Andrew. He knew that despite all the wounds, Emily needed this moment to move forward. However, he decided not to immediately reveal to her who she would be meeting, fearing that heightened emotions would make her back out. Instead, he simply invited her out, suggesting it would be an important visit for her past. Emily, though intrigued, trusted Michael. Since he had rescued her from the streets, Michael had become a crucial support in her life. His presence was always calm, safe, and she felt comfortable accompanying him, even without knowing the final destination. When they arrived at the retirement home, Emily looked around, confused. "What are we doing here, Michael?" she asked, her eyes scanning the place with a mix of curiosity and apprehension. Michael took a deep breath before answering. "There's someone who needs to see you, Emily. Someone from your past." Uncertainty painted Emily's face. She hesitated, feeling a strange anxiety grip her chest. "Who, Michael? Who is here?" Without responding directly, Michael guided her down a long corridor to a partially open door. On the other side, Andrew was sitting by the window, just as Michael had last seen him. He looked even more aged, the marks of his guilt and time very evident. When Andrew heard the sound of footsteps, he turned slowly, and his eyes widened upon seeing Emily. "Emily," Andrew whispered, his voice broken by emotion. Emily stopped at the entrance, the shock evident on her face. For a moment, time seemed to freeze as she tried to process the presence of the man she had loved so much and who had caused her so much pain. "Andrew," she murmured, unable to hide the mix of surprise, pain, and nostalgia that flooded her. Andrew's tears were immediate, running freely down his tired face. "I'm sorry, Emily, for everything. For all the nights I made you cry, for every broken promise. I destroyed everything that was good between us." Emily closed her eyes, trying to keep her composure, but the depth of Andrew's words touched her in an unexpected way. All the memories, the good and the bad, surfaced at once. I ran, because I couldn't live with the man you had become, Andrew. I couldn't handle the pain of watching you sink and taking me with you. I loved you, but I needed to save myself. Andrew nodded as if every word from Emily was a sentence he accepted without question. "I know, Emily. I know I lost you long before you left. I was so lost in my own hell that I didn't realize what I was losing until it was too late." Michael watched from a distance, feeling like a witness to a deeply intimate and necessary moment. He saw Andrew extend his hand hesitantly, and Emily, after a moment of indecision, took it. It was a small gesture, but full of meaning. It was a start. "I don't know if I can forgive you for everything, Andrew," Emily said, her voice firm but laden with emotion. "But I know holding on to this pain didn't help me. I want to move forward, and maybe forgiving you is the first step." Andrew swallowed hard, his hands trembling slightly. "I never deserved your forgiveness, Emily, but the fact that you're here today means more than I could ever ask for. I just want you to know I always loved you, even when I was a complete mess." They remained silent, a silence that spoke more than any words could express. For Michael, witnessing that exchange was confirmation that his intervention hadn't been in vain. He realized that Emily and Andrew's reunion wasn't just about the two of them. It was about the power of forgiveness and the strength to move forward even when the path was uncertain. As they talked, Andrew mentioned Amanda, the daughter he had lost because of his mistakes. "I would like to see her, Emily," Andrew confessed, his voice choked with fragile hope. "I'd like to ask her forgiveness too, for never being the father she deserved." Emily looked at him, and Michael could see a new sparkle of hope in her eyes. "I also want to find her, Andrew," Emily replied, her voice full of determination. "Maybe together we can find Amanda and try to be at least a bit of the family we once dreamed of being." And at that moment, Michael felt his efforts had been worthwhile. He didn't know if the search for Amanda would be easy, but he knew that at least Emily and Andrew were willing to try, and that in itself was already a victory. With hearts a bit lighter and a future uncertain but full of possibilities, the reunion marked not only the beginning of reconciliation, but also the hope of a new beginning. For Emily, for Andrew, and for the family they still dreamed of rebuilding. The reunion between Emily and Andrew left Michael inspired and determined to continue helping Emily rebuild her life. Seeing the two talking, even though enveloped in tears and pleas for forgiveness, gave him the certainty that the past could somehow be redeemed. Michael knew there was more to be done, and he was willing to take the next step. One morning, while having coffee on the mansion's porch, Michael struck up a conversation with Emily about her old dreams. "Have you ever thought about singing again, Emily?" Returning to the stage, feeling that energy from the people, Emily smiled with nostalgia, but shook her head. "Michael, those times are over for me. I'm not the young star I used to be. I don't know if I'd have the strength to face a stage again." Michael, however, wasn't ready to give up so easily. "Emily, your voice is incredible. I heard it, and I know you still have a lot to offer. There's a music festival happening in a few weeks. I thought it would be the perfect opportunity for you to come back, even if just for one night." Emily seemed hesitant. The idea of facing an audience again after so many years and everything she had gone through was daunting. However, Michael continued to encourage her, reminding her of the power her voice had to touch hearts and how it could be a way to finally reconnect with what she had lost. "Emily, you don't have to do this alone. I'll be there, Andrew, too, and I'm sure the audience will still remember who you are and what you represented for music. More than that, they need to know your story of overcoming," Michael said with a sincerity that moved Emily. After a few days of reflection and encouragement, Emily finally agreed. "If I'm going to do this, it's going to be for me. I'm going to prove to myself that I'm still capable." And with that decision, preparations began. Emily dedicated herself to rehearsals with a determination that Michael hadn't seen in a long time. He organized singing lessons, provided appropriate clothing, and ensured Emily had all the support needed for her big night. Meanwhile, Michael was working on another plan in secret, finding Amanda. The conversation with Andrew about their lost daughter had awakened in him the desire to reunite the family, and he believed the festival would be the perfect moment for this reunion. With the help of the private investigator he had hired before, Michael discovered that Amanda was living abroad, working as a visual artist in a small town in Europe. Amanda had followed a creative path like her mother, but her work was more introspective, reflecting the years of separation and the weight of her own memories. Michael, driven by a genuine desire to bring Emily, Andrew, and Amanda together, decided to contact her. The first contact was difficult. Amanda, now 30, was skeptical about any mention of her father, but Michael was persistent. He explained the reunion between Emily and Andrew, described their effort to forgive each other, and told her about the music festival where Emily would be performing. "I know this is a lot for you to process," Michael said in a video call with Amanda, seeing her face marked by surprise and pain. "But I believe this festival could be the perfect moment for you all to see each other again. Your mother is returning to the stage for the first time in decades. I know she would be thrilled to have you there, even if just watching." Amanda remained silent for a long time, struggling with her emotions. The memory of her mother singing, her unmistakable voice echoing through the house, was a happy memory of a time before the family's collapse. The idea of seeing Emily performing again, so full of life as in the old times, touched something deep within her. I don't know if I'm ready to forgive my father, Michael, but my mother, I miss her," Amanda finally said, her voice choked. "I'll go to the festival. I want to see her sing. and maybe, just maybe, I can start to understand all of this. Michael felt a mix of relief and excitement. Amanda agreed to his proposal and promised she would be there. Now, the festival would not just be Emily's return to the stage, but also a chance to heal the wounds of a family that had been torn apart by time and past mistakes. As the festival day approached, Michael kept Amanda's visit a secret, knowing the surprise would be even more special. Emily, on her part, prepared with dedication and passion reminiscent of her youth. For her, this performance meant more than just singing. It was a rebirth, proof that she could still dream and, above all, live fully. The festival day finally arrived, bringing a mix of nerves and excitement for everyone involved. The city was in celebration, with people of all ages gathering to watch the performances. For many, Emily's return to the stage was a long-awaited event, and the air was filled with anticipation. Michael was backstage, managing the final details. He looked at Emily, who was getting ready in front of the mirror, adjusting the simple but cheerful dress she had chosen for the performance. She looked beautiful, radiant in a way that went beyond physical appearance. It was the light of someone who had found the strength to dream again. Emily turned to Michael, her eyes shining with a mix of anxiety and gratitude. "I don't know how to thank you for all this, Michael," she said, her voice a bit shaky. "I never imagined I'd be singing for an audience like this again. Thank you for believing in me." Michael smiled, gently squeezing Emily's hand. "You deserve it, Emily. This is your moment. Let everyone see the star you've always been." Emily nodded, taking a deep breath to contain the emotions threatening to overflow. When the announcer called her name, the audience erupted in applause. It was as if time had not passed, and Emily was just resuming her rightful place. With firm steps, she walked to the center of the stage, the light illuminating her figure in an almost magical way. Taking the microphone, Emily paused briefly, absorbing the moment. Then, with an emotional smile, she began to sing. Her voice, strong and laden with emotion, filled the space, touching everyone in the audience. The notes flowed as if they were part of her, an extension of her soul, and everyone there could feel the passion and history that each word carried. With each song, Emily seemed to grow stronger, more confident. She sang with the same intensity of her glory days, recalling a time when music was her life. The audience followed her, moved, some clapping, others discreetly wiping away tears. When the time came for the final song, Emily prepared for the grand finale. Michael, watching from backstage, felt his heart race. He knew the most awaited moment was about to happen, and then, in the middle of the introduction, the stage lights shifted, focusing on a new figure stepping onto the stage. Emily turned, surprised, and stopped singing for a moment. There was Amanda, her daughter, slowly approaching, holding a microphone, her eyes also filled with tears. The audience, not fully understanding what was happening, began to murmur, but the murmur quickly turned into applause as they recognized the resemblance between the two. Emily brought her hands to her mouth, incredulous. The tears started to flow before she could hold them back. "Amanda," she whispered, her voice breaking with the intensity of the moment. Amanda, now beside her mother, smiled softly, and together they began to sing the final song, a song that Emily used to sing to Amanda when she was a child. The audience was on their feet, clapping thunderously. It was a moment of pure emotion, something no one there would soon forget. Emily and Amanda sang together, their voices intertwining in perfect harmony as if the years of separation had never happened. It was a celebration of reunion, forgiveness, and the strength of family bonds. When the last note was sung, Emily pulled Amanda into a tight hug, both of them crying with joy. Michael, watching everything from backstage, felt his eyes well up too. Andrew, watching from the audience, discreetly wiped away his tears, grateful to see his family reunited again. After the performance, Amanda took the microphone, still holding on to Emily. "I came back to see my mom shine again," she said, her voice still choked with emotion. "And it was all thanks to Michael, who not only reunited my parents, but also brought me back to where I've always belonged." The audience applauded, and Michael, caught off guard, just smiled shyly. He wasn't seeking recognition, but hearing those words made him finally feel that he had found a true purpose. The happiness of Emily, Andrew, and Amanda was proof that he could use his position and resources to make a real difference in people's lives. As the festival ended, Emily, Andrew, and Amanda gathered backstage, still emotional from what had just happened. Andrew, his voice choked and eyes full of tears, finally addressed his daughter. "Amanda, I'm sorry for everything. I know I failed as a father, but I want you to know that I never stopped loving you, even when I couldn't love myself." Amanda looked at her father, her expression soft but serious. "I know, Dad, and I forgive you too. It won't be easy, but I want to try again, to try to be a family." Emily, holding both of their hands, smiled through her tears. "We're all imperfect, but we're here, together, and that's what matters now." Amanda then revealed that, inspired by her mother's courage and Michael's determination, she had decided to return to the country to be close to her family. "I'm going to move back here. I think it's time to start over together, like we always should have been." The group embraced, united by the promise of a new beginning. Michael, watching that scene of unity and forgiveness, felt immense peace. He had found something that no amount of money could buy, a true purpose, helping others, bringing hope, and rebuilding lives. That was what really mattered. As he left the festival that night, Michael knew that his journey of helping others was just beginning, and with a heart full of purpose, he prepared for the next chapter of his own story, knowing that each act of kindness could create a lasting impact on someone's life. I hope you enjoyed today's story. If you did, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more stories like this. Leave a like and comment below what you thought about the story. See you in the next video.